Selamat pagi, a very good morning to everyone. Welcome to IGesCon2021. We are glad to see a few of the participants of the IGesCon organizing committee has joined us in Webex. Those who's trying to join us, you can scan the QR code. Diharapkan semua tetamu kita berada dalam keadaan sehat walafiat, dengan kesihatan yang baik, dilindungi daripada sebarang penyakit, especially COVID-19.
Bergaung, suara bergaung.
Sorry?
Suara bergaung lah. Tak clear, suara tak clear.
Okay, Doktor, thank you. Kita sedang adjust ya.
Ya, bergaung sangat, tak clear, tak faham apa yang dicakapkan. Alright.
Thank you, Doctor, for the feedback.
Okay, welcome.
Yes. So while we are waiting for our honorable guest, I hope everyone is okay today. And may I request everybody to download the IGesCon banner so that to make it as your background.
Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Sound check. Oke, percobaan suara 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Ya, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, selamat pagi.
Now the sound okay.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for the feedback.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, our event will be start shortly. So sit back and relax. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our honorable guest, Yang Berusaha Technologies Zainab Ahmad, the Director General of Department of Polytechnic and Community College Education, as well as all distinguished guests in this virtual room with us. Ladies and gentlemen, this virtual event will now begin. To start off, let us all stand up for the national anthem, Negaraku. ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. A very good morning and salam sejahtera to Yang Berusaha Teknologi Zainab Ahmad, Director General, Department of Polytechnic and Community College Education. Yang Berusaha, Professor Dr. Ahmad Sazali Hamzah, Rector of University Teknologi Mara, Puncak Alam Branch, Selangor. Yang Berusaha, Teknologis Zainab Osman, Director of Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. Yang Berusaha, Associate Professor Technologies Dr. Sharifah Ruzaina Said Aris, Dean of Faculty of Education, Puncak Alam Branch, Selangor. The Management of Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu, the Management of Faculty of Education, University Technology Mara, the Management of Department of Polytechnic and Community College Education, IGesCon2021 participants, members of media, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the opening ceremony of the International General Studies Conference, IGesCon 2021. We are proud to announce that this groundbreaking event is a collaboration between the Faculty of Education, Puncak Alam of University Technology Mara, and General Studies Department of Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu. Ladies and gentlemen, for information, altogether there are 13 topics that will be covered in this conference, and a total of 37 papers will be presented during this two-day virtual conference. This event provides an ideal platform to discuss the latest developments, issues, and concerns in the field of general studies, teaching and learning, with the theme Embracing Technology in Teaching and Learning in the New Norm. To begin the event with blessing from the Almighty, I would like to invite Ustaz Raja Ahmad bin Raja Hussein to lead the Doa recitation. Please welcome.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Ya Allah, we raise our hands in gratitude, thankful for the blessing of organizing the International General Studies Conference 2021 with the theme Embracing Knowledge in Teaching and Learning in the New Norm. Therefore, Ya Allah, we pray for the blessing on our collaborative initiative. Bestow upon us the abundance of beneficial knowledge and virtue, clear perspective and truthful wisdom. Ya Allah, grant us the good of this world and the hereafter. Bless us every step of the way toward excellence, be it in the academic or non-academic fields. Guide us through the excellence you bestow upon us to give back to our society. Bless us with the competence to ensure that we continue to serve for the betterment of Ummah in general. Ya Allah, bless us in unity and harmony. Unite us in the spirit and in the strength of making our goal and vision a success. Guide us in our effort to disseminate knowledge and uphold the virtue of education. Amin, 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 ya Rabbal Alamin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azaban nar wa qina azaban nar wa qina azaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Taqabbalallahu minkum.
Thank you, Ustaz, for the doa. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to extend our warm welcome, we would like to present to you the opening remark by Yang Berusaha, Professor Dr. Ahmad Sazali Hamzah, Rector of University Technology Mara, Puncak Alam Branch.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. Yang Berusaha Teknologi Zainab Ahmad, Director General Department of Polytechnic Education and Community Colleges. Yang Berusaha Profesor Madya Dr. Sharifah Ruzaina Syed Aris, Dean Faculty of Education UiTM. Yang Berusaha Teknologi Zainab Osman, Director Kota Kinabalu Polytechnic. Colleagues from Puncak Alam and KK, conference presenters and participants. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the International General Studies Conference 2021. I understand that this conference is jointly organized by the Faculty of Education, UiTM, and also Polytechnic KK. Hence, I would like to welcome and thank our counterparts from Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu Sabah, who have collaborated with UiTM in holding this meeting. First of all, I would like to commend the organizing teams from both the UiTM and Polytechnic KK for making this conference a reality, especially during this pandemic. The title of this meeting is the Embracing Technology in Teaching and Learning in the New Norm. I think this is a good theme, especially for educators from university and also from Polytechnic. According to UNESCO, it is reported that more than 220 million students, especially tertiary students, was suddenly disrupted in 2020 due to COVID-19. I think schools and higher learning institutions everywhere throughout the world, and also in Malaysia, they have resorted to various delivery channels that included a rather sudden massive dependence on technology. This shift in the pedagogy came with its own sets of problems, as well as we have all experienced ourselves. Thus, this technology push that we have experienced has revealed to us a widening inequality, especially in education. This shift, I think, has led to the opening of a series of opportunities for us academics to investigate, evaluate, and also to reflect on many educational issues that crops up during this pandemic. This issue actually opens up an area whereby intellectual discourse for academics like this meeting can be useful. Okay, through sharing of your views, findings, opinions with regards of using technology, especially those students that have been affected, especially in the rural areas. I'm pleased that with this collaboration between Faculty of Education UiTM and also Polytechnic KK Kota Kinabalu, it marks another milestone in the collaborative effort between UiTM and also Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu. I hope that you'll see more collaboration between this faculty and also with other Institute Higher Learnings in the future. From the bottom of my heart, I wish the organizing committee all the best for this program. I think it'll be two days program. And I pray that the conference will go well and will achieve its goals and aspirations to be a global platform in sharing new knowledge, particularly in the field of education. For our colleagues from Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu, again, thank you for your partnership and collaborative effort and support in holding this IGesCon 2021. I hope that this collaboration between UiTM and Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu will be a start to many successful joint efforts and collaborations, especially in the field of education in the near future. I kata selamat berkonferensi and I wish you all the best to all the participants and also the presenters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, for the opening remark. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are pleased to present to you the official speech by Yang Berusaha Technologist Zainab Ahmad, the Director General of Department of Polytechnic and Community College Education.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang Berusaha Profesor Dr. Ahmad Sazali Hamzah, Rektor Universiti Teknologi Mara Selangor Branch. Yang Berusaha Teknologis Zainab binti Uthman, Director Politeknik Kota Kinabalu. Yang Berusaha Associate Professor Teknologis Dr. Sharifah Ruzaina Said Aris, Dean Faculty of Education, Universiti Teknologi Mara. The Management of Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu, the Management of Faculty of Education, Universiti Teknologi Mara, the Management of Department of Polytechnic and Community College Education, IGesCon2021 participants, members of media, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning to all. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored to receive the invitation to officiate the first virtual international conference on general studies for 2021, or in short, IGesCon 2021. I would like to congratulate the IGesCon 2021 organizing committee headed by Faculty of Education UiTM Puncak Alam Branch and in collaboration with General Studies Department Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, for successfully organizing this inaugural event. I would also like to extend my appreciation to the invited speakers who have taken time from their busy schedules to be with us in the spirit of embracing research and technology through teaching and learning in the new norm. Not forgetting participants of IGesCon 2021, presenters and researchers alike. It is truly encouraging to see such a diverse presence today. Ladies and gentlemen, sad to say, the global pandemic has caused major disruption to the education system, as we have known it to be. Hence, we are adapting to a new norm that has never been tested before. The changes that we are experiencing is creating a new direction of world study. This direction creates a new trend, among others, as well as globalization, mobility, collaboration, and evolution in learning and teaching, as well as the optimization of digital technology. Research activity is the core of invocation for higher learning institutions. This means that research activities will ensure that educational institution continues to be relevant and be in the forefront of new ideas and knowledge in tandem with the fast-changing time and era. With this regard, we need to ensure that the context of the research is carried out with utmost thought and insights. For example, it should be impactful to ensure sustainability of outcomes, as well as be able to solve current and urgent issues of the community. This, I am sure, is in line with the desired outcomes of the 9th shift of the Malaysian Educational Blueprint 2015-2025 for higher education, which is globalized online learning, where the increase of access to quality education for Malaysians and global community provides efficient cost delivery, builds the Malaysia education brand, and increases prominence for Malaysian higher learning institutions, especially in niche areas and expertise. Hence, this is where research activity plays its role in transforming and upgrading the institutions of higher learning under the category of innovation ecosystem, where it states that the pattern of research context needs to move from cultivating research to research that can directly benefit the community. Ladies and gentlemen, research and innovation is the cornerstone of every transformative and visionary development strategy any society wishes to pursue, especially in the use of technology in teaching and learning in the new norm. I believe IGesCon2021 has thus played its part as a catalyst in initiating and stimulating interest among the academic staff of higher education, as well as that of related industries and private sector partners. The advance of technologies has become indispensable, a necessary tool over the present time, and it has influenced living and working in a new global era. This development has brought us to the new paradigm and challenge in the world of education. Thus, the need to embrace the new approach of teaching and learning in order to best prepare future generations. With the right approach, it promotes opportunities that can be shared by all levels of society, promotes integration, increases productivity and wealth, and ultimately achieve societal well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my greatest desire that this collaboration would benefit and raise a healthy competition between the two institutions, especially in general studies research. I also hope that this program would continue in the future so that many others will benefit from the public knowledge sharing, particularly for Polytechnic and UITM staff and students. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, and with the noble phrase, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, it is with great pleasure that I declare the opening of the International General Studies Conference 2021, or IGesCon 2021. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Yang Berusaha Technology Sign Up for the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, with a montage presentation, we are proud to announce that the International General Studies Conference, IGesCon 2021, is now officially begin. Before we get started with the main program for today, let us enjoy the virtual tour of Sabah, produced and contributed by the Sabah Tourism Board. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the virtual tour just now. And although travel is restricted due to the current situation, I hope you keep the desire to travel alive, especially to our friends from outside of Sabah who wish to visit us once the pandemic has passed. Who knows, in the next IGesCon, we will be once again enjoy the spirit of live conference, right? God willing. Now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to kick off this morning program, I'm glad to have with me Miss Christabel to co-host the keynote session. Hello, Belle.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm fine.
Okay, well, it's over to you.
Right, thank you, Adrian. It is now our pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Darren Benjamin Liu from National University of Singapore. Dr. Darren Benjamin Liu is a lecturer at Center for English Language Communication, National University of Singapore. He received the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Linguistics from King Mongkut's University of Technology, Thonburi, Thailand. Dr. Darren's research interests are, among others, written corrective feedback, identities of language teachers and learners, and language education. Dr. Darren is an associate editor of Human Behavior, Development and Society Journal, Thailand. It is an interdisciplinary, peer-reviewed journal that focuses on fields relating to the humanities and social sciences and is published 3 times annually by Asia Pacific International University's Institute for Interdisciplinary Studies. He himself has published numerous quality journal articles and has participated in many prestigious seminars and conferences. Now, before we get to see what Dr. Darren has to present us today, I would like to remind everyone that you are welcome to ask questions by posting it in the conversation space, and we would gladly read them to Dr. Darren after his keynote. Thank you. Without further ado, let us present to you Dr. Darren's keynote entitled Pedagogical Adaptation and Survival in the New Norm to Communities of Practice. Please welcome Dr. Darren.
Yang berbahagia, Technology Zainab Ahmad, Director General, Department of Polytechnic and Community College Education. Yang berusaha, Professor Dr. Ahmad Sazali Hamzah, Rector, University Technology Mara Selangor Branch. Yang berusaha, Technology Zainab Othman, Director, Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu. Yang berusaha, Associate Professor, Technologist Dr. Sharifah Ruzaina Syed Aris, Dean of Faculty of Education, University Technology Mara. The Management of Polytechnic Kota Kinabalu, the Management of Faculty of Education, University Technology Mara, the Management of Department of Polytechnic and Community College Education, the International General Studies Conference 2021 participants, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good day to all of you. I am Dr. Darren Benjamin Lu from the Center for English Language Communication, National University of Singapore. It is my honor to be with all of you here at this conference. The theme of your conference is something that is very real to all of us, embracing technology in teaching and learning in the new norm. I'm pretty sure over the past year and a half, all of us have encountered different challenges, different opportunities, as we had to make plans, sudden plans, to move online to teach our students, okay? Acknowledging the challenges that you have faced, acknowledging the opportunities that you have faced, I intend for my presentation today to be something that is empowering for all of us, okay? Now, the reason why I am saying this is because I am an outsider from your context, okay? I have never seen what is happening in your classroom, okay? I have very limited knowledge about what is going on in Malaysia as well. The knowledge that I get is from news reports, from research papers that have been published recently about what educators are doing, at different levels to meet the needs of their students. And I think at this point in time, I think it's more fruitful, it's more valuable to acknowledge what educators have been doing thus far. Hence, my aim really is to empower all of us here at this conference. I don't see myself, as someone who is an expert of your setting. And definitely, I do not want to see myself as an academic tourist. In social science research, we have this term academic tourist to refer to researchers who visit a research context or a research setting, does the research, collects the data, and then leaves, without really leaving an impact, on the research setting or the community that was being researched, okay? So I hope that's clear for all of us. I really aim to empower all of us here at this conference. Now, my presentation is divided into 3 parts, as you can see on the slide. First, we'll talk about some general understandings of what it means to adapt to changes, okay? And then we'll consider how it is that we have survived so far because of the pandemic, And finally, I would like to leave all of us with this concept, community of practice. I'm pretty sure some of you have heard of COP before. Okay, let's move on. Okay, there are many reasons why we make changes to our teaching, to our curriculum, for example, okay? And in all of these changes, as educators, we need to adapt, okay? As you can see on my slide, the first kind of change that probably we have all encountered is the curriculum change, okay? Where we can see changes happening to the materials, perhaps, or even the way in which we assess our students. Another change that probably is affecting us as frequently, as probably a curriculum change is the change in resources, availability of resources. I think in the past 10 years or so, we have seen, different kinds of technologies, different kinds of software being introduced into the classroom to facilitate the learning process of our students, okay? Changes can also happen to reflect the achievements of our students, okay? Perhaps students are developing, students are making better grades, okay? And that calls for certain tweaks, certain changes that we might want to make in our curriculum, okay? Now, another change that we can observe happening in the educational sector at large is the change to online delivery, okay? However, it must be noted that this kind of change is pre-planned. Now, when this kind of change is being proposed, there are certain questions or certain factors that need to be considered, or questions that need to be asked, okay? First of all is whether or not the content is suitable to be put online, okay? Is it a project-based course or is it a lecture, okay? A project-based course probably will be more suitable in an online setting than if a student needs to be in a lecture, interacting with the lecturer and with his or her classmates, okay? Another factor to consider is the use of the teaching methods, okay, that would be suitable for an online environment. Do we use a blended approach? Do we use a flipped approach, okay? Aside from the content and the teaching practice, we also need to think about the personnel. Do we have enough support staff, okay, to help the lecturers, to help the students? On top of the support staff, we also have to think about the infrastructure. Do we have good computers? Are lecturers expected to use their own computers? And this is a big debate now, okay? Is there good internet connectivity, okay, for both the students and also the lecturers, okay? I think all of us know that, infrastructure can be a great impediment, to the classroom progress, okay? In the past year, I'm pretty sure all of us have heard stories, news reports, locally from Malaysia and also from elsewhere about some of the challenges that students and also teachers face in wanting to do an online classroom, okay? Now, again, I am talking about the regular planning of a program or a curriculum to be made online, okay? Now, when such planning is taking place at regular times, not during the pandemic, there will definitely be time that is needed, okay? They need a runway for this to happen properly. And it's not only planning that needs to be done, there also needs to be a phase where the online program is trialed, okay, to be able to identify bugs, for example. And when these bugs or these issues are identified, then the personnel or whoever is in charge of the program can troubleshoot. Now, according to HODES, Moore, Lockheed, Trust and Bond 2020, it takes up to 9 months for a regular program to be made, to be converted online. Now, if it takes that long for a regular online program, I'm pretty sure all of us are thinking about, the instantaneous switch that all of us had to go through, and we pulled through, okay? Now, it's a time-consuming process and definitely not an easy task for those who are involved. And because of that, small-scale adaptation has been something that is commonly employed, okay? I think we can all think about different aspects, little aspects that we see in our classrooms that can be suitable in an online environment. For example, if you need your students to, discuss about a topic or an issue before they come to class, okay, you can easily set up an online forum or an online discussion board, to help students voice out their opinions, voice out their views, and then these can be consolidated and discussed further when you meet with your students, okay? But this is just a small aspect in the classroom and not the whole program, okay? Now, like what I said, converting a program to something that's online will be time consuming. It needs different kinds of resources, and it needs different kinds of contributions from different people. And as I have said, the change that we all experienced last year happened almost instantaneously. Okay, we were suddenly disrupted by the pandemic, and we had to think about ways in which how we were going to teach the class, not just the class tomorrow, but the classes that we will have for the rest of the semester in an online setting. All of us, had probably the night, okay, or even one day to think about what we could do to be able to make sure that learning could still take place, okay? Now, at the time of the pandemic, this notion that's linked with online teaching came about, called the Emergency Remote Teaching, ERT. Now, a while ago, I have been talking about, converting a regular program online and how it is time consuming. And there are different phases involved, when you want to convert a program to be something that is online. Now, this is not the same and it is not comparable to ERT, okay? The intention of ERT is not for a robust educational ecosystem, okay? What it intends to do, however, is to provide temporary access to instruction and instructional supports in a manner that is quick to set up and is reliably available during an emergency or crisis, okay? So ERT is a notion that all of us can, I think, see as being relevant in our current circumstances. As such, because it is something that we use to address learning in an emergency or crisis situation, ERT is not a permanent solution, okay? Now, when we have to think about, a temporary solution that is reliable, that can be implemented in a short span of time, we really have to be creative, okay? And we really need to focus at the ground level, what it is that we want our students to achieve in the next week, in the next 3 weeks, for the rest of the semester. We need to think about things at the ground level in the classroom, okay? And of course, this needs to be done in collaboration with the students, with our own students, okay? And also perhaps with our colleagues and also administrators, okay? Now, in thinking about what might be suitable, okay, what can I do in an emergency remote teaching situation, okay? We need to probably ponder upon some questions like, what needs to be done? Do I need to purchase software? Is my computer, is my laptop powerful enough? Is it good enough to support online teaching? If I were to create, online materials, how much time will it take? Will it be feasible to implement? I mean, if only one student has reliable data connection and all my other students do not have, then will the materials that I develop or the lessons I develop online, will it be reached by all of my students, okay? And this brings me to my next question. If some students are left behind, in what capacity can we help them, okay? Do we have the right tools? Do we have the means to help our students catch up, okay? Now, having asked those questions, I would also like to raise a word of caution, especially those who are at the administrative level, okay? As well as the educators, okay? When we convert our lessons online, when we switch to an online mode of teaching and learning, we do need to recognize and acknowledge that the quality might be compromised. And if we don't want to, think of it as a compromise, probably we have to think of it as being different, okay? Compromise kind of sounds like a negative word. So, we need to accept that the experience that our students have, that we have, will definitely be different. However, don't set yourself down too much, because there might be some cases where, the conversion to an online classroom can actually be more effective. Okay. Another point that we need to bear in mind is that the changes that we implement need to be humane. Okay, human-centered design is one of the criteria that holds more locate, trust, bond, describe, okay, and advocate for that. Whatever it is that we do, it needs to be empathetic towards the students as well as to the teachers. Okay, just like that example that I gave earlier on. If we were to, create a full-fledged online program that requires a high internet bandwidth, can our students actually access it? Do they have the means to access those materials? And also, as teachers, do we have the means, even the financial resources, to carry out those kinds of tasks? Okay, so work with what is feasible, manageable to students, educators, and the administration. For example, if there is a lecture that's based on a research article or a book chapter, perhaps what can be done is just to get the students to read the chapter or read the article in advance, and then perhaps get them to participate in a forum, a forum that's based on critical thinking, not just on recollecting information or remembering information from the text, but gauge students' comprehension. Okay, and that doesn't require students to be synchronously online at the same time as you are teaching the material. So pick and choose some lessons, some materials in the curriculum over the semester. It can be things which are done in a flipped mode. Okay. Also, work with what gives greater return. Excuse me. Yeah. So identify skills, perhaps, or knowledge that can be transferred across courses. I think a lot of universities. Yes, that's why interdisciplinary study is becoming a big thing, at the higher education level. So identify skills and knowledge that can be transferred across courses. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Some other things which can be done at an ERT situation is for colleagues to share resources. And this can be quite sensitive sometimes. And sharing of resources does not need to be confined only to exchanging materials. No, sharing of resources can also involve sharing of experiences. Okay, if materials should be kept to the teachers themselves, they don't have to share those things, but they can share experiences of how they had conducted their online lessons. Okay, if academic integrity among students is an issue, then perhaps the institution or teachers themselves within their classrooms can create an honor code system. Basically, this is a promise or even an oath that students can take to promise, okay, or to commit to doing their academic work honestly and with integrity. Okay, and I think working with higher education students or even those at the polytechnic age, that can actually work because we are dealing with adults here. They do have a conscience, I believe, and this will definitely help them in ensuring that the work that they do is honest. And the next thing that we can do is to be accepting that changes will happen. This was mentioned a while ago, okay? But yeah, we all have to have a very sensible expectation, a realistic expectation that performance indices will definitely change. I mean, we are not teaching in class. We may not have access to materials that we normally do in a regular setting. And thus, performance indices among teachers, among students need to be reconceptualized, okay? Now, teaching online can be a very isolating experience. And in this recent study by Truss and Whalen, 2021, which involved 265 educators in the USA, they found that feeling isolated was one of the attributes that, or experiences that teachers had, okay, while working from home or teaching online, okay? Now, and this is a very important factor that we need to consider, a very important finding that we consider, because ERT inevitably forces all of us to work in isolation. Okay, even if we're in our homes, with our family members, and even if we can see our students, from Zoom or from any platforms, it can still be a very isolating experience. Okay, now COP, I think, is a very useful idea to help us address this problem of feeling isolated. Okay, and I think it is a very useful and valuable concept that we can use and that we can embrace as we are working in this new norm as a way to survive together, okay, as a community, and also to uplift and to encourage each other. Now, I'm pretty sure many of you here have heard of the concept of community of practice, COP. It was introduced in the early 90s, but its relevance is timeless, okay? Up until today, there are still many studies being published based on this concept of COP. As you can see in my slide here, I know the year is only up to 2014, but it has been a concept that people have talked about regularly over the years. Okay, now what is community of practice? Okay, as you can see on my slide, COP is the area of knowledge that brings the community together, gives it its identity, and defines the key issues that members need to address. Basically, it is a cohort of people from the same disciplinary areas. And it's not just the knowledge that binds them together, but also processes involved in creating this knowledge. Okay. Now, there are some characteristics, okay, that are relevant to a COP. First, engagement. How do people do things together? How do the members do things together? Do they interact with each other? And also, of course, are materials worked on together? Do they produce artifacts together? Imagination is another characteristic of a COP, okay? Do the members of a community reflect upon who they are, what they have achieved as a community, perhaps even constructing an image of who they aspire to be in the future, okay? And the next characteristic is alignment, okay? There are different communities of practices, in the larger educational sector, and many of these, COPs actually align with each other. There might be some defining characteristics which differentiate them, okay? But it is possible that communities align with each other. But most importantly, how do members align with each other within their own community? Do they have the same goal? Do they have the same expectations, okay? Or same standards when it comes to doing their work, okay? Now, I was interested to see how educators in Sabah were coping with this sudden shift to having to teach remotely or having to teach online, okay? And this was a study that I did a few months ago back in June, okay? This study was based on a survey which had 30 items, and all of the items were, scaled on a number of 1 to 5, a Likert scale survey, okay? And the survey was constructed based on Stufflebeam and Zhang's framework, on context, input, process, and products. This framework aims to evaluate online materials, online programs, okay? The survey was sent to about 120 educators from around Sabah, and I received 97, okay, returned and completed surveys, okay? These educators taught different subjects, okay? But out of the 30 survey items, I'll only talk about one, okay, which is connected, related to the concept of COP. And it is this item here. I share some of my teaching experiences to others, okay? And we can notice that the mean score for teachers, educators who are teaching science subjects, who are teaching social science subjects, or those who are teaching a mix of both, science and social science, the mean score was 3.5 and above, okay? To these teachers, to this sample, it appeared that, sharing their experiences was something that they viewed as important, something that they agreed doing, okay, in their professional lives. And I think this tells a very important picture of how it is important to maintain relationships, to share experiences with your colleagues, even if you are not congregating, at, your office, or not meeting each other at school, okay? So what is the value of COP? Like what I said earlier on, it pays to share experiences. I mean, it doesn't have to be a sharing of resources, as I had stated earlier on, but sharing about, the troubles that you encounter in the classroom, or even methods that worked, can actually be very uplifting to your colleagues, okay? And this can lead towards building an informal support system. And having this system in place can enhance the resilience, okay, and our motivation to do better or to continue doing what we have been doing at this time of uncertainty. It is also a space, having a COP with your colleagues at your institution also creates a very rich space for insights and experiences, okay? And this can lead to awareness of probably things that might not work or even things that can work in the classroom, okay? Now, it's very important for us to acknowledge that, yes, the whole disruption because of COVID-19 has been very messy to our plans, okay? But inherently, teaching in the classroom is also very messy, okay? And I am very glad that actually in educational research, there is this growing awareness that a classroom is not a laboratory, okay? We cannot just simply, introduce an intervention or a teaching method and then make objective claims that that intervention had worked, okay? So there is this growing acknowledgement that the classroom is a messy place. There are many confounding variables in a classroom, and we can't really control what it is that we can expect to happen because of our teaching methods, because of how our students learn, okay? Because of this acknowledgement, I'm very pleased that there is more recognition to acknowledging the work that educators do within their own context, okay? There is more recognition, more affirmation of what they are doing, okay? And that what it is that they are doing can actually be very suitable contextually to their teaching setting, okay? Now, just to wrap up, this is my final slide. It takes the whole community, actually, not just a community of colleagues, but a community involving the administrators and the students as well, okay? Just to leave you with some final remarks, as administrators, expectations probably need to be reconfigured, okay? And there needs to be efforts to empower educators, okay? For educators, I think we should not break our backs in trying to figure out how we can deploy the whole curriculum or the whole program online. What we can focus on is, identifying lessons which can be conducted online and probably in an asynchronous way. That means, you and your students do not have to be online at the same time in real time, okay? Think of tasks that can be done in that manner. And of course, like what I have been saying, look for friends who can form a community. Again, you don't have to share materials. I mean, it's great if you can share materials, but then the simple sharing of experiences can actually be very helpful. And also acknowledge that students are involved in this situation that we are in right now, okay? We need to make sure that they are committed to the things that we are doing with them, to help them with their learning, but also give avenues for them to provide constructive feedback. And I think feedback is very important, especially at this time, because we get to know what are some of the things that our students can do from their homes, perhaps, and what are other things that they might not be able to do, okay? I hope my talk this morning has been something that has made you reflect upon what you have been doing so far. And I really hope that it is something that will affirm all that you have done so far in the past year, okay? Thank you everyone for listening. I really appreciate any feedback or questions that you may have for me. Thank you once again.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Darren Benjamin Liu of National University of Singapore for the keynote. Okay, so Adrian,
Yes.
do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do actually have a few questions. Okay. There's a few questions to Dr. Darren. The first one will be, I'm sure Dr. Darren is with us now. Yeah. And the first question is, lecturers and students alike suffer from this technology stress. In short, techno stress. In your opinion, how do we reduce this form of stress? lecturers and students alike suffer from this technology stress or techno stress. In your opinion, how do we reduce this form of stress during the teaching and learning process?
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, techno stress is a very real issue that affects everyone. We have what we call Zoom fatigue, I think affecting many of us who are conducting lessons on Zoom. I had just finished a lecture on Zoom actually. And yes, there are certainly days when after, lecturing for 6 hours straight, I'm just exhausted. Is everything okay? Everything can be heard, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So how do you address Zoom fatigue? I think I had mentioned in my presentation that, when we are planning, even though it is an emergency form of planning, we need to kind of identify tasks or lessons which do not necessarily require students or lecturers to be using technology. I think if we go into the literature of flipped classroom, which is actually a teaching method that social sciences have been using for quite some time. Okay, I think utilizing the flipped approach can really help us manage the amount of time that we will need to spend online in front of a camera, with our students. Yeah, I think if we can identify aspects of our lesson that we can flip, I think that would probably be a way to go, which is something that we do here at NUS. There are certain lectures where students need to read parts of a chapter, for instance, or read a research article. We'll let them do that on their own, but of course there will be some sort of brief assessment in the subsequent classes. Yeah, but yeah, identifying different parts, okay, in the lesson where you can make certain modifications. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Now, I believe we have the second questions here. Okay, the second
Oh, they
question
disappeared. The
here.
MCs disappeared.
How do teachers or educators engage the students' participation in class using the ERT method? I repeat, how do teachers or educators engage the students' participation in class using the ERT method? Thank you.
So, Doctor, this is the second question. Can you hear us?
Hi, Doctor. Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes, I have one question to ask actually.
All right.
You mentioned something about code of honor with the students. Can you give one example you can use in an online class?
It's actually not too complicated, code of honor, and I think in certain educational systems around the world, this has been, something that they have been doing for a few decades actually. For instance, in my class, most of my assessments are actually written assessments. So students need to write, a short research paper, or at the end, when they have their final exam, they have to finish writing an essay in like 3 hours or something like that. But anyway, since mine is a written assessment, okay, I have a clause that I have at the very top of the essay where the student makes a simple declaration promising that the work that they did is their own. Okay, and I think this works with adult students, university-age students, because it kind of works with their conscience, okay, their integrity. So having them to kind of make that declaration, even though it looks simple, to a certain extent works, especially when we don't have tools that help us maintain integrity. For example, Turnitin. Even though it is something that's used in higher education, not all higher education institutions may have access to Turnitin. Yeah. So this kind of helps, and it also helps, in the event that maybe a student plagiarizes or is not honest in doing his or her work, we can leverage on the declaration, okay, when we are investigating the matter or thinking of consequences or repercussions of the student's actions. Yeah. But basically, the declaration, the code of honor, is just to really show that the institution or the teacher, the lecturer, does not tolerate any forms of academic dishonesty. Yeah.
Hello, good morning, Doctor.
Yeah, hello. I can hear you
I'm
now.
Dr. Saifuddin from KL. I have one question. Regarding teaching student, for theory subjects, it is easy for us to teach online and the student will understand when we explain and give example, right? But when it comes to the practical like science subjects and so on, we need to do lab tests and etc. So what do you see your suggestion to make sure that the student learn through online the practical way? Thank you, Doctor.
I think, okay, yeah. Yeah, the theoretical part, the theories, those are definitely easy to convey through online modes. I agree with you. Yeah, it's when the practical aspect comes into the picture that becomes a little difficult, especially when you need students to be in the lab or to be in a setting where they have to perform the experiments or they have to carry out the procedures themselves. And I think, there isn't much that we can do at this point, especially because the students themselves might definitely not have the equipment that they need, right? What we have been observing here is the lecturer or the TA, okay, or the RA carrying out the experiment or the procedures which was explained by their professor, but they carry the experiment out in different reiterations, in different versions, and some of the versions of the procedure or the experiment might have some issues or mistakes. So, I mean, that's the best that can be done. I think what the students will do then is to kind of look at all the reiterations or the different versions of the experiment to identify which one was problematic, which one was done correctly, and things like that. But yeah, I mean, for sure we don't have a good solution for that because the students can't come to the lab. But I think given the restrictions that all of us have, I think that's the best that we could do. Even here at NUS for about 6 months, nobody was allowed into any of the labs. So they had to, make some compromises, okay? And that was one of the compromise that they did, yeah. Just having students evaluate and then, watch a few videos of the same experiment and try to decide which one was done correctly or which one was not, yeah, and explain why, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we should expect 100% replication, in the student's own home or space. Yeah, that would be, if someone can do that, wow, great. But yeah, that would be difficult, I would say, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor.
No problem. Thank you, Dr. Saifuddin.
Okay. So do we have any other questions from the audience? Okay, I think we have one more question. Oh.
Should I answer the questions in the chat?
Yes, please, Doctor.
Yes.
Okay.
A few questions.
How did you overcome your restriction? My restriction is I didn't have classrooms given to me because that was my main restriction over the past 1.5 years. How did I overcome? I mean, and we were on Zoom. I think what really helped me, especially in overcoming the social distance. Let me just, social. Okay, the main restriction because of the lack of classroom was the lack of social presence. And I think in language teaching, communication teaching, which I do here at NUS, I think the presence of the lecturer, of other students is very important, okay? And what I did to overcome that particular restriction is to make my materials pervasive. I'm just typing that down. What do I mean by this? many a times communication courses, especially at the graduate level, is at the bottom of the students' priority list because they're busy doing their experiments, busy writing their research papers and whatnot. So I made sure that my materials were pervasive. What I did was I created an online platform where students can record or contribute any language observations that they had, that they encountered over the week. Okay. For example, last year, when I did this, I was able to collect 277 contributions, distinct contributions by all of my students over the academic year. And that was actually very useful because then I could use that to create small exercises, small tasks, and also develop that into a full-fledged kind of like a material that I can use this new academic year. But what you call that, having this kind of materials where students have easy access, and it was not even a complicated platform. It was an online Excel sheet and an online form, Google form, where students just contributed things, okay? But it kept my module, it kept my class at the back of their head. Because, whenever they encountered something, they were like, oh, this is interesting. Let me, contribute it to Dr. Darren. Yeah.
Okay, another question from Ms. Nor Azrina Awang Ahmad. Doctor, do you think the comprehension of students on the learning content is affected due to technological adaptation? And do you think there are different acceptance or internalization between younger students and tertiary students?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that question. Definitely, the acceptance towards the mode of information will definitely be different. And I think, or what I have noticed so far, okay, I mean, I don't have any research to back me up on this, but what I have noticed so far is the younger students, they do maybe 18 to 22, they do readily accept, different kinds of technological forms when it comes to information dissemination. I have some graduate students doing their PhDs who are in their maybe early 40s or even older than that. They have struggled a little, actually. They still tend to, like if I distribute a research paper for students to read, they still tend to print things out and then read them on paper and make annotations on the paper on the printout itself. Whereas some of the younger students that I have also doing PhDs, they are completely comfortable working on a text in soft copy form. For example, this morning I just had an annotation activity, where we had to deconstruct a research paper and try to look at how authors make a justification or highlight the gap. Some of the students, the older students, were not able to participate fully because of the lack of familiarity, perhaps with the features, or perhaps they're just not used to looking at something in e-form, in an online form. Whereas the younger students were, they're more adaptable to these things. They were able to participate freely. Yeah. So that's definitely there's a difference, and the difference I think is even stark. It's even more significant with young kids. And I think all of us know that, in educational psychology, with younger children, there needs to be explicit guidance. That's why, you have homeroom teachers, you have a teacher who oversees the students' progress throughout the course of the day. Whereas with older students, more mature students, like I teach graduate students, you can kind of tell them, give them the instructions and let them be for a while, and they can figure things out with themselves. But yeah, with younger children, I don't know how I don't know how the teachers of younger children do it, but hats off to them, salute them, because I think they have it more difficult than us who work with older students. Yeah.
I have a question, Dr. Darren. Hi.
Hello. Yes, Dr. Malai.
Yes, hi, I'm Dr. Zeti, Malai Zeti from Brunei. Dr. Darren, in Singapore, what platform do you use for online teaching? You mentioned Zoom. Is it across the board in Singapore? Everyone uses Zoom? Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. Anything?
Yes. My question is, one, what is the online platform that Singapore has been using, which I will share what Brunei is using tomorrow. Secondly, is there any learning management system also used by Singapore?
Right. For the video conferencing, I think most of us use Zoom. And at least for NUS, for all the other official, like, department meetings and things like that, we use Teams.
Okay.
And I found that Zoom is actually quite useful for the lectures, actually, especially with the annotating tool. Sorry, the transcription tool. Zoom comes with the transcription feature, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually generate a transcript of what had been said in class. So I find that very useful. With regards to LMS, NUS has an in-house learning management system, which is still, it was just introduced 2 years ago. So we were told to adopt it almost immediately. They didn't really have a runway to test it out. So even though it has been around for 2 years, I mean, every semester it's a new feature added. Every month there is a bug that someone finds. So it's still something that's, I guess, growing. Yeah.
Is it the same in also university schools, primary schools, secondary schools? Do you know?
I think primary schools and secondary schools, they go with third-party LMS.
Right.
I'm not quite sure what, but I think I have some friends who are teaching at the secondary school level, primary school level. They go with third-party LMS. Yeah, but I think most of the universities, they have their in-house kind of thing. Yeah, that's why the bugs are still around. Because
and they wouldn't pay. Yeah, because Singapore can pay for their own. So because in Brunei, there are several platforms that we use depending on the university. Right. So I'll share tomorrow, anyways. Thank you. Thanks very much, Doctor.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Malai. Dr. Darren, I believe we have 2 questions in the conversation space.
Okay, how do we maintain a professional community of practice? I was just having this discussion actually with a few of my colleagues the other day, and the discussion was on critical friends. It's a concept where educators intentionally seek out other colleagues. It doesn't have to be colleagues from the same department. It can be colleagues from other departments or other faculties. We seek out friends who can give us very honest, insights about the issues that we face. And I think this is very important, especially since all of us have very restricted social interaction these days. So a few days ago, I met up with 2 colleagues, one from the Faculty of Communication and New Media, and the other one from Political Science. Even though we are working with different centers, different faculties, we all have the shared interest in autoethnography, a research paradigm. Okay, so identifying people with the same, it doesn't have to be the same research interest, it can be the same teaching interest or an issue that they have faced in the classroom with students or with management or anything like that. I think reaching out to colleagues who are like-minded in that regard kind of gives each of us an informal support system. So talking to them actually it's from time to time, is actually very helpful, even though they're not teaching what I teach. We're coming from different areas, but kind of like, to have someone who listens to you and to give you honest feedback about what we are doing. Yeah. Community of practice does not necessarily have to be formalized. And I think, if anyone is interested to look at the dynamics of an informal community, I think that is interesting too. I think that is something that, definitely publishable, definitely examinable. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. What do you think about education gap? Oh gosh, that's a very tough question. And I think something that a lot of people struggle with. I have a friend who delivers materials to students actually, because many of the students do not have access to the internet. So I really think the gap is not something that probably can be done at the municipal level or even the state level. When you want to close the gap, it really depends on the teachers, I think, willingness. I'm not even going to say commitment, because I think all teachers are committed, but the willingness to take, a step further or a few steps further. So I've heard of teachers who actually personally deliver materials, and the classes are not online. So everything is prepared on paper, delivered to the students, and then collected afterwards. Yeah. But I mean, this question is a broad broad problem that I think all of us face. Yeah.
Okay, so I believe that that is the last question, Dr. Benjamin. So I'm handing over the session to Adrian now. Thank you.
So I think that is the only questions that we have for now, Doctor. And with that final questions, I think we have come to the end of our opening ceremony for today. Once again, I would like to thank Dr. Darren for being with us for a fruitful sharing and keynote. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we end the event, we would like to invite everyone to turn on your web camera for a virtual photo session. So please everyone turn on your web camera to commemorate this day. Okay, we are waiting for some of them to turn on their camera. We have Afza Farzana, Ahmad Muzaffar, Mr. Johar. Okay, let's take the first shoot. One. Okay. Okay, ready everyone? One, two, three. Another one. One, two, three. And give your brightest smile, everyone. Okay, let's wait for a moment. Okay, bright smile, everyone. One, two, three. All right, thank you everybody for your cooperation. So on behalf of the IGesCon 2021 committee, we would like to extend our gratitude to Yang Berusaha Technology Zainab Ahmad and all the distinguished guests for gracing the ceremony today. To all presenters, we would like to wish everyone a fruitful, fun, and engaging conference. And just a little announcement from the organizing committee. All the participants are required to stay in the session for a moment for a short briefing. So once again, we thank all the distinguished guests, our keynote speaker, Dr. Darren, and we hope to see you again in the future. Stay safe and God bless everybody. Okay, to all presenters, I believe you have received the presentation schedule. So you may log into your assigned room. I believe the moderators have sent to you the QR code for each room. Today we have room 1, Kembayau, and room 2, Salak. Your moderator is waiting for you as we will begin the presentation at 10, I believe. Okay, so you may log into your assigned room and we'll see you there. Thank you, everybody. Have a fun conference.